So you're going to see there's a lot of themes going on this weekend, and I am no exception. Well, first of all, I want to thank Joseph, Jeff, all the staff, all the volunteers, all the attendees, of course, all the bands, everybody for kind of getting together and this big idea share. It's huge, and it's really kind of what makes my world go around. So it's huge thank you to you guys. My name is Christen Carter. I started, own, and run Busy Beaver Button Company. We manufacture custom pinback buttons, as Joseph mentioned, and I started in 1995 when I was in college. I was in a garage punk band, and no one was making like punk buttons at the time. So I was like, well, I'll be the one to do it. So this is my first speech where I actually usually talk about buttons and the history of buttons. So this is when I'm actually talking about me and my business. So I'm a little nervous, and there's so many side stories I can tell about any of these things, and I'm happy to always, if anyone wants to like email or whatever, answer questions, because there's a lot of information about like running your own business. So anyhow, it's really hard for me to talk about myself this way. Okay, so I originally also used a Dr. Strangelove. There's a lot of doctors. This is one of the themes, Dr. Strangelove. How I learned to stop worrying and love the work. I actually changed the title. I actually changed the topic since I wrote this title. I was going to talk about, how to know when you're entering the second stage of your business, like when you're beyond like the startup phase and you're actually just trying to keep it going. And the more I worked on the talk, it just seemed like I wasn't really getting to the core of like what I thought you might want to get out of a talk, or you might get value from, and it would be easy for me to talk about, but it seemed like I wasn't really going deep enough into like something that might help you understand what kind of led up to getting to second stage, what's called a second stage business, which is a very, ambiguous term. So I decided to think more about the different stages of my business that I've run over the last 18 years, what was going on, like how I moved through them, and eventually like coming to like a pivotal point by force, and then kind of moving forward by digging deeper into my intentions and making action from the intentions. So you'll see my themes, and they're basically, or you'll see my stages, they're basically 5, and I kind of titled them by what I think the intention was during that stage. And running a business or any long-term project is ever-changing. I mean, it's life, and the longer you do it, the more potential it has to change. Okay, so first I started off, I was in this band, I was like, I love buttons, I want to make buttons for bands. No one was making the little punk buttons at the time, the 1-inch, and I was part of this DIY scene, and I was in the band, and I thought buttons were cool. So I bought a manual button machine. And like this is before, and I started the company in my bedroom, but this is before you could buy this kind of stuff on the internet. So it was going to the library and like looking up books and then going home, calling long distance and that kind of stuff. But and then also I wanted to do a side note that my first customer was an Ohio band, which Guided by Voices. And they were the largest customer we ever had until several years later. So then I also just went through my record collection and sent out postcards to all the labels in my record collection. And some of the customers we still have to this day. So once it got rolling after several months, like I needed something else to kind of keep me going. Like I was already making buttons and I already loved buttons. So I kind of went to this next phase where like I really want to repopularize the 1-inch button. So I remember like saying after I dropped off some buttons to a band after their show, and I was like, I remember saying like, I want to be the button maker, and I thought like, lightning was coming down, and I was like, and it really felt good, as I was joking at the time, but it's like, hey, that felt surprisingly good to say that. So I kept reaching out to new customers, and people were getting excited about 1-inch buttons, and then, a few people started noticing that 1-inch buttons are getting popular, and a couple of people written some articles about it, and even like Napster gave me a call. This is like 1997. So Napster gave me a call, and they're like, we want you to do buttons for us since you do buttons for all of our favorite bands. And I was like, heck, the word is getting out. Like, this is really exciting. So And then I started this very long, probably 10-year stage where I just wanted to get all the button orders out and make customers happy. And I mean, it was exciting. It was very customer-driven. I really felt really good rapport with our customers. Like they'd be like, "Hey, why don't you do this size? Okay, let's figure out this new finish. That sounds great. Why don't you take credit cards? Oh, I should, yeah." So it was this really great dialogue that we had, and I still actually have loads of friends I'm always making friends from owning Busy Beaver, but I still have a lot from them from that time. And then also during this time, I was kind of feeling like, it's kind of, when you're kind of doing all these operations, you're like, I guess my creativity was feeling a little squashed, So I started the Button-O-Matic, and this is 2002. We started the Button-O-Matic. There's actually one out there. It's empty now. Sorry, but where we curate collections of buttons and sell them in Chicago. We have about as many in Chicago as we do all over the whole country. We curate them, and people can buy buttons through these vending machines. And they're all art buttons or something. And actually, this new series is getting released next week. I'm still super excited about it. Actually, Margot Harrington's one of the artists, and actually, also Milton Glaser is doing a design for this one. So that's kind of exciting. And then there's a 3.5 stage where I had to get regular employees to help me get these buttons out, and so then I had to I didn't have to, but I could have stopped any time. But then I was like, well, I want to get these button orders out. I want to make customers happy, and I want to make everybody who I work with happy. So I was really struggling with the communication part and scheduling people, and just kind of being the boss of my friends too. But we were still growing, and it was good, and it was fun. And this is 10 years. This stage 3 is lasted pretty much until 2004. And this is another theme that keeps happening. Well, that year I found out I had cancer, and I'm okay though. Everything's all right. But I had some innards removed. I was out for a month, and I was it was probably a year that I just I didn't get I was ugh. I call it my caveman period because I was very confused. But something had to give because I was working so many hours. I'd run to FedEx at 9:30 at night, and then I'd go to the post office. We have a 24-hour post office in Chicago. And then I'd run to the post office, this is this cycle of not really enjoying myself, but just getting things done. So, and I wasn't really showing up the way I wanted to in work and my life and all that stuff. So the next stage started. I want to figure out what to do with this thing and get orders out and make everyone happy. So I hired this recent bachelor degree business entrepreneur, this woman, Alex. And she helped me run the operations because I was just I was kind of at that point. It's just take it. I just want to chill out for a while. So she had been a customer. I really liked her, and then through her I actually became involved in the Coleman Entrepreneurial Center at DePaul University. So I took some seminars, and there I met my mentor, and I was feeling really lonely. What am I doing? I don't know. This is all up to me. And this is a real turning point for me. My mentor, Nan, she said, so what kind of business do you want to have? And I was like, I don't know what you mean. And she's like, well, do you want a lifestyle business or do you want a growth business? And I was like, I don't know what you mean. And basically what a lifestyle business is where you kind of just a lot of consultants kind of do this, but where you're chunking away and you're getting you're working towards getting a regular paycheck. And a growth company is where you're expecting to grow, you're setting a vision, and you're building the structure to kind of get you there. It's like Fitzcarraldo or something, And And so I was like, well, I don't know. Like, I have to think about this. So I was talking to my brother, who is the production manager at Busy Beaver. And we were like, I don't know. What do we want this thing? Like, what are we going to do here? And, it seems like it'd be really nice to just kind of chill out, kind of keep it going. But at the same time, I don't even know if that'd be possible. And then I always like a good challenge. So I was like, well, I'm going to go for growth, because I still saw potential in buttons, I still saw potential in Busy Beaver, and I still saw potential in me in this whole mix of things. So I joined a roundtable, started developing a vision for what, this is like a punk rock business, so I'm kind of starting to use all this business speak, building a vision and kind of trying to put these pieces together. And building a system around this. And then I started, I read loads of business books. They're kind of like self-help books. But, and this one is Passion, Value, and Money. And this is from Jim Collins' Good to Great book. And it helps me visualize kind of the foundation of making a successful kind of creative commercial business. And it's pretty fundamental, this concept. I'll tell you about it. It's the middle is where you want to be, where that asterisk is. It's kind of where your passion, your value, and the money kind of all overlap. So all those things are happening in that little middle part. And then questions to ask. What are you deeply passionate about? And then keep asking why until you get to something that's very core, or that's what I've had to do. And then as far as value goes, it's what can you be the best in the world at? That's what Jim Collins says, the guy who has this Venn diagram. And I also ask, what value do you bring to the world that others need, And then the money question he asks is, what's your economic engine? Meaning, how do you make money? And it can get a little complicated, but in this part, it's try to be as kind of specific and break it down on how you bring in money and how you spend money. So, keep changing and tweaking it until it's it could be profit per job or something like that. And it also really helps to work through this with somebody else, because if you have a partner in your business or your project, it's kind of a necessary discussion, what are we doing here? This is basically what this thing is. But if you don't have, ask somebody to just kind of help talk you through it. And the key things for them are just really to give you plenty of space while you're working through it, and gently help ask clarifying questions. Those are their guidelines. For me, my passion for buttons, it's how an idea is sparked and distilled to a small visual space, and then made to share with others and to wear, and then and then support an idea that potentially starts conversations, and then can from there kind of lead to greater understanding in the world. I know it sounds very grandiose for a little button, but that's kind of what I'm working with, and I believe it too. As far as a business, one of the things I really passionate about with Busy Beaver is that we're this hub for people trying to make their mark, and in so many different ways. We'll do buttons for museums or for bands, but social causes, and it's just all these people are really trying to do something, and it's just so cool to see this. And I get tingly even thinking about this. As far as value for us, is to kind of deliver the goods and do it with TLC and reasonable prices. But and Jim Collins saying what are you the best in the world at? And I believe that Busy Beaver is the best at being the most friendly, reliable, inspired button company in the country. Or, but the thing is, you have to also be really realistic about this. But I believe it. So we all kind of came up with this as a group. And then money, we're currently working on profit per order. This is really nuts and bolts. So, but some orders we lose money on, but it all balances out, because I just don't want to not be a hub for all these people doing great stuff. So yeah, this thing kind of just sums it up. And it's kind of like the weapons of mass creation stickers. And then once you kind of get in, once you kind of like feel it out and get into that like asterisk zone, Jim Collins has this thing of like working like a hedgehog, where you just like slowly, diligently work at that thing once it's really distilled. And so through all of this, like kind of like introspection and deciding who we were, and we came up with, we want to elevate the button. That's what we want to do. And it's become like more than just about me and what I want buttons to do in the world. It's more about just buttons. It's about the button and the expression, the communication that it has the potential to facilitate. And now, like we've set like the Fitzcarraldo, like the system. It's like we've set up the system where everyone who works there. There's about 20. We're all like working towards this, and the system thing is like it's a whole long discussion, and it's very different for everybody. So there's no like quick answer, but we're pretty like well like aligned, and we all do collaborative goal setting and internal or continual improvements and pizza parties, and we have like financial infrastructure now, which I never ever would have thought. 18 years ago that I even care about this stuff, but now like the numbers are really inspiring, So, and then we also, a few years ago, started the world's only button museum. So the button's been around for 117 years. There's even we call them pre-buttons. George Washington, Abraham Lincoln had, and all up until McKinley, when the button was invented, all used buttons. So, and it's pretty fascinating. And I learned so much stuff about like what happened in history during that. Like beautiful Jim Key, this horse that traveled the country, and it was like a entertainment. That it really made me appreciate this like hub idea of what we do and what other button companies currently and in history have done. Like they've been, like Whitehead and Hogue, the original button company, like made buttons for beautiful Jim Key, McKinley, all these cigarette companies. Like they were just like, they saw society happening, and it's like this kind of people's history that's fascinating. And it's also really exciting because like, every once in a while I get an email from a publication asking if they can use a button. So we were in a New Yorker recently, or one of our buttons was. And that really helps us like elevate the idea of the button, because there's such powerful small images. So now, I wanted to leave you guys, I think I kind of blew through that, but I wanted to leave you guys with some like ways to dig deeper, because I think it's like, we kind of do some of this stuff annually, but you gotta get all introspective, It's like, and ask yourself why. There's this like, exercise where you say something, you're like, why? And then you say, well, why that? And then why that? And then hopefully you get to kind of like this core reason of why you're doing what you want to, or it helps guide you to where you want to. It's helped guided me where I want to go. We also do annual SWOT, and a SWOT is where you kind of brainstorm like it's real businessy, but it's like you brainstorm your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strengths and weaknesses are things internal, opportunities and threats are things external. And it really like helps us to decide what goals we're going to work on, what things are the most important, what strengths we have to leverage, what opportunities we can, partnerships or something like that. And it's really great to do as a group. I also highly recommend joining any sort of roundtable or collection of people who want to talk about whatever you want to talk about. And then after second stage, it's like it's got to be more than just about me or you. It's about how you want to affect the world. So, and then also like one of the things that these are things that I was like, good for them. They take risks. This is good. Like, And then like pay attention to the effects, because there's going to be really great things that happen, and there's going to be really crappy things that happen, and just try not, be judgmental, although it's really hard, and just feel it out. And then also talk to other people about what's going on with you and what's going on with them, because it's hugely insightful, and you really kind of start finding people that you really click with, And then like other kind of introspective questions are like, what have I done? What am I most proud of I've done the last year? What do I want to do more of next year? What do I want a year from now to look like? Where do I, what am I looking like a year from now? And these are all very helpful exercises for us to, because I'm just trying to get the buttons out. So stopping kind of asking these questions, even while I'm doing buttons, asking these questions is a good thing. It's really hard to make time to be introspective. So like right now, I'm kind of on to whatever my 6th stage is going to be. It's forming. I'm like currently like digging deeper, and it also kind of like makes getting older more interesting and fun because it's like the world just becomes more and more full of possibilities, and it's fun to work on stuff, and I still see more potential in buttons and Busy Beaver and in myself. So I really blew through that talk. That's it.